Would you like to know what happened with Trump's Second Amendment order?
What a stupid question that is.
Well, yeah, so would the rest of us. And that's what we're going to talk about today as I give you my opinion on what's the deal, where's the news, what is the holdup here, and how there is one big issue that I believe will stop Trump, if anything stops Trump from actually being able to expand and remove the infringements that we have upon us as gun owners in the United States. There is one thing that will stand in the way. That is connected to the reason that there's no news on this big Second Amendment order that, let's just be honest, no other president in our lifetime would have ever signed an executive order like this. But an executive order doesn't mean much if we can't get some action behind it. And I'm not looking at Trump as far as the person to blame here, but you're going to see who I am blaming for that. And of course, I want to hear your opinion. What do you think? Where's the Trump executive order? Do you think my opinion is kind of spot on, or do you have another theory behind it? Let me know what you think down below. Let's go ahead and jump right in. So where is this executive order? Well, Trump gave Pam Bondi 30 days. Come up with any infringements that citizens have on the Second Amendment. Not just from the time when Biden was in there, which there's a lot, but also any infringements. So in theory, Pam Bondi should have an entire list, pages worth of infringements to hand to the president, and then now let's work. I mean, this is like a once in a generation type of thing to have full control, House, Senate, White House, to have so many things on the table, Hearing Protection Act, Hush Act, abolish the ATF Act. There's a lot going on, and yet the problem, the initial problem, is Pam Bondi. He gave her 30 days. Well, crickets.
It's been so long ago, I'd forgotten about that.
Nothing. Not even a post or a tweet or anything. This is going to come up when I tell you what the biggest obstacle for Trump and the Second Amendment is going to be moving forward in order to get these infringements reversed. But let's talk about Pam Bondi. Not just the gun stuff that she's done, which we all know about, but also lies and the promises that she has actually broken. Now, I read a column by a guy named Scott Maxwell. Back in 2011, she was going to have an interview with Geraldo Rivera. Okay. Geraldo wants to push her on the wrongful convictions in Florida. Florida has the highest rate of exonerees in the United States of people on death row. 30 since like 1970. And they also have provisions in place that kind of like limit some of the money and stuff, some of the compensation that can be given to people that are exonerated, which is ridiculous because if somebody spends basically their entire life, you can't give those years back. They have to be compensated. That's just, to me, that's a must. Regardless, Florida is just a terrible state when it comes to that kind of stuff. Well, Pam Bondi calls Scott Maxwell because she doesn't really know about all the wrongful convictions, according to him, right? So take all this with a grain of salt. And I will leave this article down below. If I happen to forget, which does happen, just shoot me a message and I'll make sure I leave the link down below. But I'm really going to try to remember it. Anyways, she calls him and gets some info about these wrongful convictions. And according to him, he wasn't trying to help her get elected. He just wanted somebody to pay attention to this issue. And she said, on Geraldo Rivera, we're going to get it done. I'm going to be the person to get it done. And you know what happened with all of those people and the wrongful conviction cases that could have been opened back up? Nothing. Now, this is the same person that actually skipped a planned execution that had already been pushed back twice for a fundraiser. You may be thinking, dude, I guess that's not terrible, right? Well, it was her own fundraiser. And, the family of the person whose life was taken back in 1988, Robin Novick, well, they, of course, want justice for this. They get so many appeals, and I guess in Florida, it's a good thing that it takes so long because, with so many exonerees and all of that, just thank God DNA evidence is there because most of those wrongful convictions are because of terrible eyewitnesses who have basically mistaken identity. And then look, what we're focused on here, after Parkland, pushing for red flag laws, and she worked with Rick Scott in order to get that done, upping the minimum age. I talked about this actually in a video just a week ago now at this point. She was behind that. And during her confirmation, no Republicans asked her about her position on guns. Nobody asked her about red flag laws or her supporting the minimum age going from 18 to 21.
Well, part of the governor's proposed legislation, which I wholeheartedly agree with, is to raise the age for assault rifles to 21. I didn't even realize you have to be 21 to buy a gun now, a handgun, yet you can be 18 to buy a rifle.
There's basically no questions about the Second Amendment and how she would treat it. She's in a much bigger position now than what she was in Florida, but if you look at what she did on a state level, what makes any of us think that she won't do it on a federal? That does not mean that she is going to be totally anti-gun. This executive order and the timing of this really kind of shows us that it's not on her top priority. I've seen people say that it's not on Trump's top priority, but look, I've done, 10 videos on things that Trump has done for the Second Amendment since taking office and even before that. We can go down the list, but simply getting people like Kash Patel at the ATF, Kash Patel at the FBI, Dan Bongino, guys like that, huge wins. His support for removing suppressors from the NFA. Of course, the Second Amendment executive order. That again, I can't see any other president actually taking the time to do that, and he did it within like 15 days of taking office. So to say it's not on one of his top priorities, I don't think that's fair, but he's tasking somebody that clearly has somewhat of an issue anyways of fulfilling some of the promises that she's made. And to me, it just doesn't seem like it's on top of her list of things to get done. Now look, not everything she's done is bad, but she has made some really terrible moves. We could probably do a whole nother video talking about that stuff. And there is one thing that's going to stand in the way of Trump being able to get stuff done. I think he has a lot of good people around him, which is great. Gun Owners of America, that's fantastic. I expect to see like a difference between the NRA, who was really in Trump's ear the first time around.
No bigger fan. I'm a big fan of the NRA. They want to do right. These are great people. These are great patriots. They love our country.
Which led to a bump stock ban, compared to Gun Owners of America this time around, which is who he said he's going to listen to. I expect to see a stark contrast. But you got to have people around him that continue to bring this stuff up. And the biggest obstacle in his way is, in my opinion, Pam Bondi. Because this is the first thing, basically one of the first things she was tasked with. And absolutely nothing on it. Now, Trump does have a planned meeting talking about law and order and stuff at the DOJ tomorrow. Maybe that's when she presents it. And of course, if and when she does present it to the president, we of course want to talk about it, see what she came up with, and compare that to the infringements we already know about. But we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. Maybe it happens tomorrow or today, which is when you're going to be seeing this video. So we'll be on the lookout for that. And of course, I want to hear your opinion down below. Let me know what you think. Big thanks to you guys. See you in the next one. And as always, hold them down.